Okay, so today we'll continue the discussion on OFDM. Let me get a check. Okay, so we talked about the basic OFDM transmission and how to recover the transmitted data. Let's just recap briefly. So we transmitted a signal S of t, which is a sum of a number of complex sinusoids. Okay. S of t is a sum of a number of complex sinusoids, each sinusoid carrying a given modulation alphabet xk, and it is a time limited signal between 0 to t OFDM. Of course, in actual system you will have a continuum of OFDM symbols being transmitted. Okay, it's sufficient for us to focus on one snapshot of the signal. Okay, and we developed a receiver which demodulates the data of interest Zm, which is R of t, which is a received signal, minus j2 pi delta f kt is going from 0 to t over Tm, where R of t is sum of transmitted signal plus additive white Gaussian noise collected at the receiver. As you can see, the entire processing is analog in nature. Okay, the processing is analog in nature. So you need a number of a generator that generates a number of complex sinusoids precisely at those frequencies, and you multiply them with the received signal and integrate over the transmission time. Okay, so m ranging from values 0, 1 up to n minus 1. So we have to carry this out a number of times. If n is very large, we need a bank of all these filters to collect the decision variable z of m. Okay, and we have shown that this decision variable z of m can be represented as x of m t OFDM plus some additive white Gaussian noise w of m. Okay, once you bring this to this particular form, you are ready to demodulate your data x of m, right? You know how to do that? You pass it through a maximal likelihood demodulator. Basically, in its simplest form, if x of m is MRA, QAM or PSK, you proceed with threshold detector or something like that. Okay, you have studied this, right? In digital communication. Okay, that part is okay, but performing this operation in analog domain is probably a bit cumbersome. I mean, nowadays we don't do this sort of analog processing in communication receivers. Okay, everything is discrete time implementation using DSPs or ASICs. Okay, we don't do this. And one more drawback of at least a drawback of OFDM is that originally for the first is the computational complexity associated with reception because of this sort of analog processing, and the second is you need to precisely generate these complex sinusoids in the receiver without any frequency drifts to make decisions, right? If at all this delta FM has a drift, it has a frequency offset, it creates a problem. But of course, in real life, we do have to live with such drifts. OFDM is prone to frequency offsets. Okay, that we will discuss a bit later. Okay, for the time being, we keep the system very highly idealized. Okay, So what we will do now is, instead of looking at this problem from analog processing point of view, we'll implement this entire transmitter and receiver in discrete time domain. Okay, and that's in fact how most systems they implement it. So we'll develop such a discrete time model in a moment. Okay, let me erase this. So what we will do is, we will develop the receiver in discrete time domain directly. Okay, again in the entire discussion we'll use baseband representation, low pass baseband representation. So we have a received signal R of t, which is the sum of S of t plus N of t. We'll pass it through an analog to digital converter. Okay, it's called ADC. Well, ADC, what is an ADC? Well, it's ADC by itself. It's a since the signal is in low pass baseband form, the ADC has to limit the noise to certain band of interest. Okay, so the ADC can be viewed by itself as a low pass filter. Okay, and we're going to limit this to a band of width n times delta f. What is n times delta f? This is a bandwidth. Okay. Well, like I said in the previous lecture, the notion of bandwidth is a bit iffy here. This is not a band limited signal, so we'll see how to handle. We'll see this in a moment. Okay. Okay. So we'll discuss it. Yeah. So okay. I don't know how people actually build ADCs, but I don't build such things. But don't think of it as an ADC for the moment. Think of it as a low pass filter. Okay, let's think of it as a low pass filter. I will see how it acts as an ADC in a moment. Okay, you have to limit the received signal to a band n times delta f. The bandwidth is n times delta f. Okay, so now I will take the output of the ADC and I am going to sample this filtered signal. I am going to sample the filtered signal at a rate t. I will collect samples t equal to I times ts, where I starts from 0, 1 and so on up till possibly up till n minus 1. What is ts? Well, ts is the sampling duration and 1 over ts is the sampling rate. And if we want to perfectly reconstruct the received signal without aliasing, what should be the value of ts? Ts should be chosen as 1 over, at least as n over delta f. Okay, twice the highest frequency component. Okay. But you may argue that the waveform signal is not a band limited signal because it has side lobes, right? So in reality what happens is that the bandwidth of the system is not truly n times delta f, but you may load only n bar subcarriers and drop a few tones on the edges. Okay, so in essence this runs from 0 to not n minus 1 but some number n used. So we'll replace this with n used, or you can keep it as n and think of x case being zeros. No, I'm working this the other way. We'll show that in a moment. There is a reason why for doing this in this particular manner. Okay, you can always play around with these things, but so the number of used subcarriers is called n used. N used is the number of used subcarriers. So what would be the effective bandwidth of this system? We will call bandwidth, effective bandwidth, n used multiplied by delta f. So actually your intention is to operate within a bandwidth of n used multiplied by delta f. Okay? So the effective bandwidth effective is equal to n used multiplied by delta f. Okay? However, the receiver can operate at a bandwidth, assuming that it has a bandwidth of n times delta f, and if you sample at a rate 1 over ts, n times delta f, you have already incorporated oversampling, right? Because you have increased the bandwidth, therefore it is exceeding the Nyquist rate required. Is that right? Because your bandwidth is actually less, but you are operating at a rate 1 over ts. Does it make sense? So you incorporated oversampling into the system. Okay, there is a reason for doing this. We'll discuss this when we discuss the 4G standard. Usually in real life, what happens is that we keep the the value of n and the ts as constants, or rather, the ts is kept as a constant, and the bandwidth could be anything. So you can build a system with 20 megahertz bandwidth, 10 megahertz bandwidth, whatever it is, but the ts is kept as constant. We'll see those why these considerations are important.
ADC output is already listed.
So now you're going to sample this at rate ts. So we collect samples at t equal to I ts, where I goes from 0 to n minus 1. Okay. Now we can view this entire block as an ADC. Okay. So that's what I meant. This is an ADC. It performs low pass filtering, and the output of this ADC is discrete samples. Okay, this entire block is viewed as an ADC. Okay, you may or may not build an ADC in that particular manner. You may split it into 2 parts or 3 parts, but currently we'll view this entire block as analog digital converter. Okay, and there is a particular reason why we choose this particular shape, so that the noise sample, see, if you have a flat spectra here, the signal will be passed through this filter without any distortion, right? So at this point, I have R tilde of t, which is equal to S tilde of t plus N tilde of t, where S tilde of t is same as S of t. Is it right? Because it is faithfully reproduced at the output of the filter, because we have chosen a filter with response with a flat, whose response is flat, and the signal goes through this filter faithfully. However, n of t, which is the additive white Gaussian noise, which has flat spectra everywhere, goes through this filter, and the filter noise is not exactly the same as the noise at the input to the filter. Why is that? Now the filter is band limit. The filter is going to band limit the noise to a band of width n times delta f. N times delta f. Okay. We don't have to worry about n used for the time being, because that will come into picture when you demodulate it. Because the way we're going to build the receiver, we don't have to worry about n used right now. Okay. So n tilde of t is still additive white Gaussian noise with flat spectra, and if you take samples of n tilde of t at the rate 1 over ts, where ts is 1 over n delta f, it can be shown that the noise samples collected from n delta of t, right, the noise samples, the samples are uncorrelated or statistically independent. because the correlation between successive time samples is 0, because this is a flat spectra and the correlation function is a sinc pulse, and if you sample exactly at the peaks, the sinc produces 0 correlation among successive noise samples. Okay, you can work this out if you want. If you choose the spectra to be not flat, then the noise samples will be correlate. Then we call it colored noise. Okay, or if you choose this bandwidth to be significantly below that of the signal bandwidth, then obviously there will be all sorts of problems. Even the signal will be aliased. Okay, so we chose a very simple framework where we choose flat spectra as the low pass filter with flat spectra, and we're going to collect samples at the rate 1 over Ts. Okay, now we can proceed. Okay, we do know that delta F is equal to 1 over TOFDM, right? Delta F is 1 over TOFDM. 1 over TOFDM. That gives me TOFDM divided by N. So, the time duration between any two successive samples is the total time of OFDM symbol divided by N. So, what we are doing here is, we have a signal that spans 0 to T OFDM, and we are going to collect samples whose duration is T OFDM by N. Essentially, we are collecting N samples in a time width of T OFDM. Okay? So, with this, we are now ready to describe the subsequent steps in the receiver. Right? The receiver has to yet process the signal. Okay? So, let us write R of T, where T equal to ITS is equal to S of T plus N of T, or rather S of T plus N tilde T. We said that S of T passes through faithfully, but N tilde of T is band limited noise, and both are sampled at T equal to ITS. So we'll write this as S of I T OFDM by N plus N tilde of I times T OFDM by N, and we'll write this as R of I T OFDM by N. Okay? We can simply write this as R of I is equal to S of I plus N tilde of I. Is it okay? Rather, we'll write it as, instead of N tilde, pardon me, we'll write it as W of I. Did we use this W before? Huh? So, we did use it, right? WM. So, we'll call it N of I or something like that. Okay? Okay. So, put a tilde here, just put a tilde just to make sure it is consistent. N tilde of I. Okay? So, I ranges from 0, 1 up till N minus 1. Why is that? Of course, that many samples we have. Okay, let's examine S of I. Okay, we'll know the expression for S of T and substitute T equal to ITS. Okay. and we'll keep the limit as n. We will not use n used as yet, but with the understanding that some of the xk may be zeroed out. Okay, we'll keep this as n. So with t being substituted as I times ts, and ts is t over tm by n. Is it okay? Okay. And we do know that delta f is equal to 1 over t of dm, or in other words, delta f multiplied by t over dm is unity. So that gives us does that sound familiar? So let's take a short break and look at the transmitted signal S of t, how it could be synthesized, the analog signal. Okay, S of t, this is how you have to generate. But perhaps what we could do is, we could generate S of I ranging from 0 to n minus 1. Let's generate S of I. I'll explain you the reason for doing so in a moment. So how would S of I could be generated? Take a sequence x of k and pass it through inverse DFT, which is n point. And what would you get? S of I, and pass this through a digital to analog converter. Does it make sense? Well, you may ask, how can you take n point IDFT and get a perfect D2A if the signal is time limited? Like again I have said, you are going to null out sum of xk's, so the effective bandwidth of the signal is much less than n times delta f. Therefore, you should be able to, so taking an n point IDFT already incorporates what is called oversampling. Okay, we are sampling at this at a rate. This is sampled at a rate higher than the Nyquist. Okay, that is sampled at a rate higher than Nyquist rate because we are going to null out some of the xk's. So this is already oversampled signal S of I. You can pass through a digital general purpose digital to analog converter and get your signal S of t. This is a very popular way to represent an OFDM signal. In many books, this is how you see it. But however, it's really important to understand how this signal looks like in continuous time form. It's always important to look at the signal, the represent signal in continuous time form, although this is much easier to deal with. Right? Okay. So this is an endpoint IDFT. And why is that this is a popular way to implement? Well, DFTs can be implemented with fast Fourier transforms. So you can use an IFFT to implement this using either DSPs or ASICs. And usually n is on the order of 512 or 1024 or 2048. At least in 4G systems, that is the size of n that is being used. Okay, n is also related to the bandwidth. Even wireless LAN n is quite high. Wireless LANs use OFDM. Okay? So, well, our goal here is to build a receiver. We just took a detour here. Our goal is to build a receiver, and we are using a discrete time representation and rederive our receiver using DFTs and IDFTs. In the previous lecture, we used a bank of correlators, received signal multiplied with a complex sinusoid and integrated out, and that was our demodulator. Here it would be something a little different, which is going to use DFTs and IDFTs. Okay? Fine. So, we have S of I, now we have to look at N tilde of I. Okay? Okay. What would be the noise power contained in this N tilde of I? Give an example of N tilde. What would be the variance of N tilde I? Any idea? Well, that you can say from here, right? You take any sample and the variance of it is the power contained in the noise process, and the power contained in the noise process would be what would be the power contained in the noise process? The variance of noise power, that is the effective noise power after ADC would be N naught is the noise power spectral density, right? Multiplied by the bandwidth. What is the bandwidth? What is the bandwidth here? N times delta F. Okay, that would be the effective noise power. Okay. So now we already said that the noise samples at the ADC output are again additive white Gaussian noise but discrete time in nature. So the expected value of N tilde I is equal to the mean of the noise samples are equal to 0 because it's a zero mean process. So the mean doesn't change. And the variance would be expected value of N tilde I absolute value whole square is equal to the power contained in the noise process, that is N naught multiplied by N times delta F. Okay? Okay. So, given this R of I equal to S of I plus N tilde of I, our job is to recover X of K. Okay? Given this, our job is to recover X of K in the presence of noise. Okay, let us see how that can be done. Okay, I'm going to erase this part. Okay, so we want to make a decision variable Z of K. K is generally used to denote the frequency domain index, because you can think of our information is being transmitted in, is sitting in frequency domain X of K's, and then you get this time domain waveform using a inverse discrete time Fourier transform. So the transmission is in time domain, but the information is carried in frequency domain. Of course, you don't carry anything in frequency domain, but you always send a time domain waveform, but the information is carried in embedded in frequency domain. So therefore, Z of K, K generally denotes the frequency domain index here, whereas I denotes the time domain index. Okay. So what we will do is, if X of K is passed through an IDFT to generate a S of I, it is reasonable to assume that we have R of I and pass it through an inverse transform, which is a DFT, and that is N point, and that gives us Z of K. Receiver includes an inverse the DFT, N point DFT. But you can see the beauty of it. R of I is generated using an ADC, right? So there is t is passed through an ADC, and that gives you R of I, and then you implement a DFT. Okay, we'll see what the DFT does to signal. Okay, let's proceed with the steps. Okay, Z of k is R of I multiplied with e to the power of j 2 pi ki by n, where I ranges from, is that the DFT? Right? This is a familiar DFT, right? RF, which can be implemented using FFTs. Is there a sign difference? Minus required here? Okay. Okay, fine. It is a minus, okay? Okay. So, well, you substitute R of I is equal to S of I plus n tilde of I okay, and we'll substitute the expression for S of I in here and do certain manipulations. I'm going to replace this k with a dummy variable m. You'll see that will avoid certain confusion. Okay, I'm going to replace this k with a dummy variable m. Okay, however, I will reproduce this with a dummy variable. So m equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of k e to the power of j 2 pi m I by n plus, well, I'll bring in the exponential here, e to the power of minus j 2 pi ki by n plus n tilde I e raised to minus j 2 pi ki by n. Okay. Well, there is the useful signal component and there is noise component. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens to the signal component, this complex expression. Well, it simplifies to something. This can be written as, take this and club them together. Okay. So m, it is 2 pi m minus k times I. There is a double summation I and m. When I, what is that? This is m x. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Okay. Okay. When k equal to m, this part goes away. Then you get n times xk, right? When k equal to m, you get n times xk. Is that okay? Plus summation, there is double summations, x of m e raised to plus j 2 pi I m minus k by n, can you see this? Plus whatever the I2 noise, will deal with this in a moment. Okay? Where m is not equal to k. And this should go to 0, right? It's a complex sinusoid summed over n points, and that should go to 0. Is that right? So this goes to 0. Okay? So we'll write this, whatever the noise part, filter noise, as n of k. Because everything is in frequency domain now, the indices change to k, where k ranges from 0, 1 up till n minus 1. Okay? Well, we bring it down to the desirable form, but the only aspect that needs to be addressed is what is the variance of n of k. That is very important, right? Because if you want to define the signal to noise ratio, you have the desired signal component x of k, and there is some noise component. You have to see what is the noise variance and what are the properties of that n of k. And as k goes from 0 to n minus 1, you can recover. For each k, you can demodulate xk. Okay? Okay. So we started with n tilde of I and it goes through a DFT, and we ended up with what is called Zk, which is a summation of n times xk plus nk. Okay, and we do know the properties of noise n of I, which is collected at the ADC output, and we know that n of I is a sequence of complex Gaussian random variables, and they have zero mean, equal variance, and they have the same probability density function, and they are statistically independent of each other, uncorrelated. Since they are Gaussian, uncorrelatedness means statistical independence. So it's n of I is an IID complex Gaussian noise sequence. N of I are IID complex Gaussian random variables. They all have the same statistics, so it doesn't matter which I you collect them. Okay. Now we pass this through a DFT and we end up with NK. Okay. Now what are the properties of N of K? Because DFT is a transformation, right? And what happens to the statistics of N of K is of relevance to us. Okay. So you can show that expected value of N of K is equal to 0. By the way, how do you define N of K? Let's define it once again. N of K, we'll write it as, well, there is a tilde here. N tilde of I, e raised to minus j 2 pi ki by n I equal to 0 to n minus 1. This is N of K. And if you take the expected value of N of K, you can move the expectation inside, and this is 0 mean, so N of K is 0. Okay? Okay. But then what about the variance of N of K, or more generally, what is the autocorrelation function of this process N of K? Okay? Expected value of N of K multiplied with N conjugate K plus some K naught, right? That is autocorrelation function. K naught is an integer, that is equal to 0 if k bar takes any value other than 0. And expected value of for k bar equal to 0, we have n of k absolute value square, that is some variance which is sigma nk square. Okay, well, this you have to show. Take this, write n of k and write n conjugate n k plus k naught, carry out the expectation, and you should be able to show that for k naught other than 0, the autocorrelation goes to 0. And when k naught equal to 0, it gives you a constant. And that constant is, it turns out to be n times sigma ni tilde square. Okay? N times sigma ni tilde square. That is n times the variance of the input noise. This is something I have not derived. You can go through the steps and you can show it here. You can derive it yourself. Okay, what does this mean? Well, we have n tilde phi, which is IID complex Gaussian random variables. It goes through a DFT, and DFT is the what we call they're orthonormal vectors. Okay, DFTs are orthonormal vectors. I'll show that in a moment. And if you take a collection of n tilde i's, if you put them in a vector form, okay, and if you pass through an orthonormal transformation, a complex Gaussian i's pass through an orthonormal transformation gives you yet another n of k will also be IID complex Gaussian random variables. But the only difference is that the variance is increased. The variance is higher. Okay, so that is a property of DFTs. Okay, that you should be able to show that. Have you done this before in random process course? You have not done a sequence of random variables. Okay, I'll leave it as an exercise for you. So now we should be able to define the signal to noise ratio for the decision variable z of k. Okay, and what would that be? The signal to noise ratio for any subcarrier k is equal to, what is the signal power? Signal power is n square sigma x square. And what is the noise power? N times the noise power of n tilde I. What was that? I don't have it written here. What is the noise power at the ADC output? N times delta F times N naught, right? Okay, that becomes n square goes away, sigma x square by delta F times N naught, which is exactly what we got using analog processing, right? The effective signal power is sigma x square and effective noise power is delta F times N naught. Okay, the only steps that I have not clarified here is the variance of n of k when it goes through DFT. I leave it as an exercise for you. You work it out yourself. Okay, the problem is formulated, you work it out yourself. You can derive it, just 3 or 4 steps. Okay, you write down the equations, n of k is given, you just plug it in and you show it yourself. This one and this one. Okay, that's not too difficult. So since n of k's are IID complex Gaussian random variables, it has an implication to the receiver. you can process each k independently. I mean, the signal associated with each k independently, because the noise samples are uncorrelated. So you don't have to collect a sequence of zk's and process them jointly. Instead, you can take each z of k and you can go through a maximal likelihood or map at symbol by symbol. Take k, 1k, z of 1, you make your decision. Take z of 2, you make your decision, and they are all decoupled. You don't have to process them jointly. If you have to process them jointly, complexity would increase. If at all noise was correlated, then you would have to process them jointly, a big sequence. Okay. The fact that the noise is uncorrelated for different k it has an implication to the receiver. So the receiver is simplified. Okay. So ultimately, this is what we have. So this completes, a cursory look at OFDM in a highly idealized setup. We don't have a channel in between. We just showed you an analog representation for OFDM transmit and receiver, and we have derived a discrete time equivalent of that. From now onwards, we'll proceed with this discrete time representation because equivalence has been established, and which is much simpler to deal with. Okay. In the next lecture, we'll introduce a channel between the transmitter and receiver, a wireless channel, and we have to make suitable modification to the transmitter, which is basically including a cyclic prefix, which helps the receiver to cope with the ISI and yet use this type of processing in the receiver. Okay, we'll have to show that in detail. Okay. For a unity channel, things are simpler, but when there is a multipath channel, things will get a little more complicated. Okay. Nevertheless, the cyclic prefix is a big boon because you can still use the entire framework. You add a cyclic prefix at the transmitter, and at the receiver you remove the cyclic prefix at the ADC output, and then you still use the DFT and transform the system to frequency domain and detect the signal. Okay, and cyclic prefix plays a very important role in that sense. It helps one to realize an OFDM system in a highly dispersive channel. Okay, so given that we have developed this simple OFDM transmit and reception, I think now you should be able to implement this in MATLAB. Okay, I don't want to implement this continuous time formulation, that's not feasible. I want you to implement this module and this module together for a BPSK transmission. Okay, so the way to go about it is XK is a sequence of BPSK symbols, right? You can make the variance unity if you wish, zero mean, unit variance. Take a block, you can choose n as any size, 512 or 1024, any size. So you simulate one OFDM symbol, okay? First to start with. XK, pass it through IDFT. So what would be the size of XK in this case? It could be either n or less than n. If it is less than n, you will have to increase the, you have to normalize the power. Okay, you have to normalize the power. You don't have to implement D2A. You receive the signal, add additive white Gaussian noise with a given variance. And how do you set the variance? 1 over n0 is the SNR, operating SNR. So you can set the variance and take DFT, demodulate the data. And you count the errors, compare the demodulate data with the transmit data, count the errors and repeat this procedure a number of times. So for a given operating SNR, you will get the bit error rate. And that bit error rate should be equal to Q function of, is that right? You know the theoretical bound for this, right? So you can compare simulation and theoretical performance. Is this something you can do? Have you done an exercise like this before? So we should probably start with something very simple. So I think you should be able to do this over the weekend. I mean this whole week, and Monday you should be able to get this. If you have any doubts, I'm here over the weekend. You can discuss with me, or you can discuss among yourselves. And by Monday we should complete this, because tomorrow I'm going to talk about the cyclic prefix, and that you should implement right after this. Okay, first you get this done, and then you add cyclic prefix to the transmission. Okay? Yeah, but don't slip the deadlines though. If you slip it by another week, then you won't be able to cope up with the other exercise that I'm going to give. Whatever means you have to complete this. Okay? Okay, so stop this. And do go through the notes. When you do this, it helps you.